Hey guys, Josh back with another video, and today we're going to take a look at a few hand histories a friend sent me. Um, so he plays on an American site, but he asked that his username not be revealed. Okay, so double checking that the hand history didn't have his screen name in there. But yeah, we're just going to take a look at these, and then we're going to do some hand analysis in Pio and take a look at a few key concepts. So let's dive in. So this is a single raise pot button versus big blinds. The button opens for 3 big blinds, and then hero in the big blind calls with king queen off. Ace king queen flop goes check check. Turn king. He 3/4 and position calls. Rivers a brick, and he 2.5 X's in position call jams, and then shows the counterfeit queen 9. So yeah, we're just going to take a look at the turn strategy, like what sorts of hands should we be betting, and then on the river, how do our blockers affect our sizing, what sort of overall sizing should we be using, and then what do we think about impositions bluff jam here on the river. So yeah, I'm gonna pull up Pio. Okay, so I had these single raise pot trees run. Now on the river, I forgot to give out of position an overbet size. But the nice thing about Pio is you can create subtrees. We'll go back through and build a subtree here, and so add some more sizes so we can take a closer look. But I mean the overall frequencies on the earlier streets are going to be pretty close, especially given how many sizes I gave it on the earlier streets. The overall tree is going to be quite accurate. So on the flop, on these high connected boards, imposition is going to have a pretty polar betting strategy. You'll see mostly half pot and pot. On this board specifically, you're going to see more pot, with a decent mix of half pot with like the stronger king X region. And then yeah, you'll notice hands like pocket aces going to the small size, blocking the calling range. And then you should have a pretty, like you should be checking back a lot of hands on this. On these higher connected boards, you should be making sure you start to bluff some of these lower pairs, preferably with the spade, with the flush draw suit, so that when you hit a set, it will not be simultaneously completing the flush draw. And then make sure you're checking back all sorts of ranks of pairs. So yeah, it goes check check on the flop. Turn is an offsuit king. And so out of position here, the main hand out of position wants to put money in with is the king, right? Because on the flop, the imposition check back range should be like a lot of the weaker king X, and then tons of ace X, and lots of queen X. So when it goes check check on the flop and the turn's a king, imposition is going to be doing a lot of betting for the out of position player, namely the king X. But if out of position has a king, it blocks the betting region. Not to mention that if you have a king, you unblock the calling region. Like if you pot, imposition is going to be calling all the ace X, most all the ace X, it looks like. So this lower ace X is starting to fold if it blocks some bluffs. So worth noting. Let's see. Yeah, so this. So there's not going to be any overbetting. I don't think overbetting would make any sense because both players should have tons of strong hands on this board. Like on connected boards in general, both players are going to wait to like pile money in until the river, because like strong hands are often not going to remain strong on lots of different runouts. Like even if you have a hand like say like King Queen on this texture, I mean obviously on a king turn, you're not going to be like you're not necessarily going to be incentivized to slow down, but um, there's lots of different runouts that kill the valor of your hand, meaning you're not going to necessarily be able to value bet on a later street. Like if it runs out, uh, like lots of flush turns, it kind of kills your hand, and then like a jack or a 10 kills your hand. Um, More just like decreases its ability to value bet. So um, that's a big reason you'll see lots of checking back on these connected boards. Not to mention that like small bets just don't function as well because like if you let's say you bet like a quarter on this board, like out of position can just continue with pretty much any gut shot. Not to mention the raising out of position can do. So um, okay, just double checking, making sure I was done that before. So yeah, so check on the flop, turn king. Um, so I think in the hand he 3/4, but in the sim we have pot. So goes pot call, then rivers and offsuit 9. Yeah, so you'll see lots of big betting and then like a good mix of half pot and then checking. So what I'm going to do now is build a subtree in Pio. In case you haven't seen me do this in a previous video, I'll go ahead and do it here. So basically, what a subtree will do is it'll take the ranges you get to this node with, and then you can just add in more sizes, basically, and just solve from the river on. So here, just go to tree, create subtree configuration. You see it'll take the out of position range and the in position range that gets the river here. And then it changes the stack and the pot size for you, and then you can just go to this river here. We'll just add in like all the sizes. 25, 50, 75, 100, 200, say 300, and then jam. And then in position on the river here, we'll have 100, 300, jam. Okay. So if you look at the tree size, you'll see it's like very small. So 150 megabytes that'll solve in seconds. You just build this, go, it solves insanely quick. Let this run down for a few more seconds. So here is the out of position strategy. So still mostly potting. There's not really any overbetting, which makes a good bit of sense as like both players will have lots of trips on this run out. Like if we look in the range explorer, both players tons of trips. So let's see. Yeah, so out of position has 23.5% of trips, in position has 8, so almost 19. So bit of a discrepancy there. So yeah, out of position should be doing a decent bit of big betting, no overbetting, because like the thing with overbetting is like there has to be quite a discrepancy in nutted hands. Like you can't overbet with like king 5, for example, and expect to get called by enough worse to make it profitable. You at like 330 here, like all this ace x is just, except for the specific ace x that blocks birds. Yeah, and then you're just getting called by king x. Yeah, I mean even some of this king x is starting to turn itself into a bluff. So yeah, not so ideal. Yeah, so just kind of think about how much of each player's range has trips in it, and if both players have tons of trips or streets or boats or whatever, like try to stay away from the overbetting. There's not much point to it. Let's see. Okay, so now if out of position pots, um, oh, it looks like imposition doesn't get here with queen nine at all. Looks like so queen nine is just a pure turn fold. It looks like. So that's sort of interesting. So what are our bluffs here? So what about a hand like ace nine? Yeah, so ace nine is the counterfeit two pair, blocking the boats. Yeah, so ace nine is just gonna turn itself into a bluff here a good portion of the time. So if you did get here with queen nine, it seems like a reasonable bluff. Yeah, so like boats out of position has. I actually think queen nine would be um, a better bluff than ace nine, just because out of position has a lot of king queen off and like offsuit combos just combinatorically make up a higher density of the range, just because they're offsuit combos, there's more combos. So I think the queen nine just make more sense as a bluff. Not to mention you block king nine as well. Um, so yeah, I think in my opinion, imposition uh, you know, made a pretty good move on the river there. So yeah, so versus pot bet, jams, and obviously um, then again like Jack 10 is just okay. So the main takeaway is high connected boards should be doing a lot of big betting. Most high connected boards I just use 175% size. I think on this board, since I now know the exact spot, I'll implement this. The pot or the pot, half pot, and check. Um, and then on the turn, when the turn is trips, um, like you can still bet trips, but your betting frequency is going to go down because imposition should be checking back tons of every rank on these high connected boards. So overbetting doesn't really accomplish. Yeah, and then on the river here, same thing goes. Both players will have tons of trips. No need to pile money in. Um, Especially if you have a hand like King Queen, um, and you see like well, I mean you'll get raised by worse boats yourself, so um, yeah, you don't want to like fold out the entire like it's pretty easy to see like if you have a boat and you're betting so big that like you're getting all of the top pair to fold, it's just not um, your expectation's gonna go way. Okay. So now I'm going to pause the video and pull up the next hand history. So here is hand number 2. Wait, this is the same. What am I doing? Hold on, guys. Okay. Well, I'm a dumbass. Oh, what the hell? God damn. Okay, here we go. So ace 4 in the big blind. Button opens to 2.5. Hero calls in the big blinds. Queen 6-5. Hero check raises. So the check raise size is so imposition goes, let's see, third pot or so. Or what is that? No, that's quarter pot. Okay, so quarter pot on queen 6-5. Hero check raises. That's like, if he calls, the pot is like about 80, so it's like a 75% raise. Position calls. Turn 8 of spades. Hero with a flush draw continues for 3/4. River is a brick. He jams and then button fold. So let's take a look at this. So same tree. Okay. So the betting strategy on queen 6-5 is just half pot or check. These queen low boards, you're going to see a lot of this. If the lower cards are a bit more disconnected, you'll see some more quarter potting, but how many gut shots there are, small betting is not going to be as efficient given how many draws out of position can defend with. So in position going to be sizing up here. Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of the stronger queen X, going to be checking back this weaker queen X, and then still you'll see a good bit of betting with every rank. This 5x with the overcard is definitively betting, as opposed to this lower 5x. Lower 5x is betting more with a backdoor flush draw. Okay, and then king 9 with backdoor blockers is going to bet most of the time. So it's just like on a bunch of different turns, a hand like king 9. So if you have a club in your hand, if you have king 9, you're not going to be able to barrel as many turns. Like just because you won't block as many flush draws. Like a hand like king 10 of clubs isn't betting as often. I mean, obviously you have the backdoor equity, these other cards, but yeah, sort of the idea. So versus a small bet, the check raise strategy is going to be pretty polar. From what I can tell, this is mainly just a function of like how many strong hands out of position should have on this board. So like out of position should have all the queen 6, queen 5, and then a ton of 6-5 off and pocket 5s and pocket 6s. So yeah, the strategy here is going to be pretty polar. Out of position will have a good amount of value to do this with. Note that in the hand out of position, check raise it more to like a 75% size, I believe. Yeah, so what about ace 4 of the backdoor? Yep, obviously fine. Especially since you have a backdoor straight draw as well. Check raising this hand is fine. I think this is a better check raise than hand like ace 3, just because you're gonna turn more open enders with the 4. So like if the turn was a 7 or a 3, you turn an 8 out straight draw, whereas like with a 3, the ace 3, only a 4 would you turn an open ended straight draw. So Yeah, just a bit stronger of a check raise. And then, of course, you still have the over to the board, which is, still pretty good if you hit a pair. So big check raise call. Let's see, what was the turn? It was an 8 of spades. 8 of spades, so, yep. A lot of these, check raises with a backdoor on the flop are just going to continue on this spade card. Yeah, not to mention 9-7 check raises at a pretty decent frequency on the flop, so that's going to get there, and that's definitely going to drive the frequency up on the turn. Yeah, and then out of position still going to have sets. Okay. So size on the turn was 3/4, right? We're just gonna go pot, polarizing size, and then the river was deuce of hearts. So this is just a total brick. So on this river, it's just going to be a very polar strategy on the river. Like, if you have a value hand in this line, there's no reason not to just, jam your stack. You can still have a couple protection checks in here, but it shouldn't be much at all, given how polar your line is. You should just, jam your value hands and then, construct your bluffing frequency around the number of value jams you have here. So this is just such a polar line. So think of it like this. If you check raise the flop, and let's say you go for the double check raise on the turn, your range is extremely polar. So a check raise is already polar, right? So if you check raise twice, you're representing quite a nutted range. And so once you get to the river, there's no reason to protect your check line, because you're already extremely polar, so you should just jam your value hands and then construct your bluffing frequency around that. Your check line on the river is just going to be your give ups. So if you check, you'll see impositions betting around 50% of the time. You'll see this because of the 50% rule. And this is mainly just because the out of position player is so polar that it doesn't really matter what imposition does, just because the out of position player is going to be holding a ton. And how polar this line is, we can take a look at the double check raise line. So it goes check raise, call, brick, and then check, bet, raise, call, and then a brick. It doesn't really matter, in the give up line, the imposition EV is insanely high, because this is just the give up line here for the most part. Looks like there were some give ups actually in that last. The double check raise typically is just so polar. There's not really much necessity. Check that line. Let's see, so what were we looking at? All 8 of spades, pot, call, toss you brick. Yeah, so if you look at a wetter river, you'll start to see the sizes split. This is just because when you have a hand like Queen 6 and Queen 5, the imposition range is going to have so many flushes that you can't jam a hand like Queen 5 and expect to get called by enough worse that it makes the jam that great. Let's see, if you check and then position jams, see like Queen 5 without the flush and Queen 6 without the flush are just bluff catchers at this point, because after you go check raise bet, the imposition player is going to be so dense in sets and flushes that, I mean, the imposition player, we'll see, like Queen 6 is just you're checking back with, you know, 2 pair without the flush, so yeah, 2 pair for out of position is just a bluff catcher. Yeah, but like on these offsuit brick turns or rivers, I mean, you're going to be just pretty much polarizing, especially in the check raise lines. Yeah. A hand like ace 4. So blocking the ace of spades is not so advantageous. You'll see king 4 slightly higher frequency jam, but not a huge difference. Like if you bet, so in position we'll have king queen of spades, ace queen of spades. Yeah, so you'll see like these queen high flush draws are just pure checks on the river. Like, oh well. Okay, so this is a brick river. Yeah, I mean obviously like these hands have shown up. Those. Okay. So yeah, main takeaway is in these check raise lines on these brick runouts, you should just be polarizing your range. Whereas like on these wetter rivers, say it's like an ace of spades, you'll start to see sizing splits and you'll be doing a lot more checking. Because like if your range is like perfectly polar, let's say, you would just be jamming your entire range. If you like, you can construct your range in such a way on earlier streets that you would just jam your entire range. But given that like you pick up equity on the turn, you can bluff hands that have equity, so your range isn't perfectly polar. So yeah, that's the main takeaway. Like on these flush completing rivers, after you go check raise bet, like these 2 pair aren't just pure gaming for value, and even just you know, checking quite a bit. So yeah, nice game. So the last one. Okay, here we go. So this is on Ignition at 2KNL. So button 2.5. Hero check holes out of position with 10-8 off. So the flop goes 3/4 call, turn as a 10, check, river's a queen, and goes check, and button has ace. Okay. Yeah, so when I first looked at this hand, I was really unsure about the river. there's arguments to be made both ways. So I'll talk you guys through my thought process here. Let me open the bio file. So check position strategy, not shocking on how connected and like how high connected this board is. Going to see a lot of bigger betting, so you'll see like a bunch of half pot with some pot mixed in. If the board was higher, you'd see pot like we did earlier. Yeah, just going to be a lot of half pot board. So you'll see, like, as the out of position player, hands like 10-8 off are going to check raise more when they have the flush draw blocker. I mean, they have more equity, but also they just block continues, so just for a better check raise. So calling you know, the hand he did without the flush draw blockers, pretty good. So he has 10 of diamonds, 8 of clubs, so the standard. So goes check, and then a pretty polar strategy here, centered around like the strongest top pair, and then like king 9 and 9 7s, 9 7. So, and then a call. Turn was a 10. So pretty connected turns. So hands like queen jack get there. See, like, yeah, jack 8. Yeah, and then like lots of 2-pair basically. So you'll see on this turn, you might suspect that like N8 has showdown value, so you should be mostly checking it. But if you look at the imposition range versus a bet, a lot of the continues are going to have a 10 in it, like jack 10, pocket 10s, king 10, ace 10. So, like, yeah, not to mention you block straights like jack 8. So, yeah, and then 8-6 is great as well. So you double block the 8-6 and the jack 8, and then you block loads of 10x that'll continue to a bet. Like a jack on this board is a double gut shot, so a bit more equity with the jack 10 off. So having a 10 blocking that hand is also pretty good. So yeah, 10-8 makes for a reasonable continue on this turn. You'll notice with a hand like 10-8 spade club, you just block so many folds on the turn. You don't really want to barrel that hand too often. Whereas a hand like 10-8 with the 10 of clubs, you can barrel more often, since like you block like more naked flush draws, whereas like the 8 of hearts blocks like the backdoor float combos for imposition that would just fold to a turn bet. So, and not to mention like the 10 of spades blocks those backdoor flush draw hands. That would float. Okay. Anyhow, I don't want to like get down the rabbit hole here. Stay focused. Okay, so yeah, this wetter turn, but notice it's a pretty wet turn, so you're going to be sizing down here. If it was like a brick, like an offsuit too, you're going to be very polar, so it'll just be like pot or check on this turn. And here you're just repping sets and straights. It's pretty much it. Like, even king 9 isn't like a pure bet. But yeah, 9-7 looks to be, so you can bet 2-pair in this line. It's just King 9 blocks imposition checkbacks with a 9, but it also blocks the calling range for imposition, so you should definitely be mixing that into check range. But also, since your range is polar, and so you should be constructing your check raise range around hands with equity, because basically when you, so sort of the theory behind it is that when you use draws as bluffs, you're not risking as much money as you're putting out as a bet. So if you bet 100 and you have draw equity, you're not risking 100. You're risking less. So when the turn is a brick, none of your draws get there. So you should just be doing lots of checking. And then again, you can still have these polar value bets. But yeah, I went check call on the flop, and turn was the clubs. Let's look at possible donking on this texture. So yeah, like a 7. So it just like looks like kind of like the standard turns you would expect, like the bottom and middle pair you start to donk a little. The 7 more than the 9. Just because like for the half pot size in the flop, imposition is gonna have more 9x than they would 7x. So after it goes check all on the flop and the turns of 7, imposition is just gonna have like there's gonna be a discrepancy in 7x each range has. And this turn goes check check. Yeah, imposition just with a pot size pretty much on this turn. Overbetting doesn't really make any sense. Just like both players will have a good bit of straights on this board. There's not really like a nutted discrepancy in 2 pair straights, even in sets, not really. So looking to pile money in with like ace king or aces doesn't really make a lot of sense. Same thing with sets. So it goes check check on the turn in the hand. I just want to take a look at the line that was in the hand. Then river was a queen of clubs. This is quite a wet river. On these 4-liner rivers, you're gonna see. So think of this as like the wettest possible river, right? So on these very wet rivers, you're gonna see lots of block betting. Even I'd imagine if you gave imposition a block size, it might start to use it. I'm not sure, because on the river you don't usually see that, but it's sort of this game of trying to make as many hands indifferent as you can, because like if let's say you well, you're gonna have lots of these middling hands that still want to value bet. Like you can still value bet like queen 9 in this line. But yeah, I mean the 4-liner to the jack, that's going to be the hand you put into the big size. Yeah, and you're still value betting sets, so it's not like you just can't get called by worse. It's just that the number of hands you get called by is quite limited when you size up like this. But you'll notice a hand like pocket 7s just kind of has something going for, which is it unblocks every call imposition will have aside from the straights. So yeah, you can still value bet this 2 pair, making sure you're mixing those into the check line as well. And a hand like jack 9, you can mix into the block size. Because when you like you would more or less play it like you would have you know, queen 9, and that's just yeah, you'll see like Queen Jack does it much more so that way, where you just play it like you have like you're value betting a hand like Queen 10 or Queen 9, and you just mix Queen Jack into that size. Okay. Size is. Oh no, it just goes check check. So yeah, I mean, Ace King seems like a pretty optimistic value bet here. I'm not sure I'd do this in game. I don't think you ever get called by better or called by worse. I mean, ace is just a pure check. So okay. Maybe it's bluffing Ace King. I'm really I'm really not sure what's going on there. You get called by some of this trash King X. That's a bit peculiar. Not too sure if I'd value it, especially since you blocked the calling range. That's like the first thing that came to mind for me. Anyhow, doesn't look like 10-8 has to bluff. So it looks like after it goes check check on the turn, a lot of pairs are gonna have showdown value here. So I mean, even a lot of ace high isn't bluffing. So yeah, a hand like ace 8 is a decent bluff. But when you have ace 8 of hearts and it goes check check on the turn, you're gonna unblock a lot of the ace high that folds. Because like the ace high with a heart in it would often stab the turn, especially like 8 of hearts X hands would stab the turn, blocking so many continues. So when you get to the river with ace 8 of hearts, you unblock a lot of those ace high and 8x hands without a heart that check back the turn and would just fold to a bet on the river. But yeah, it looks like most of the ace high has enough you don't really have much showdown value per se, but you can see these lower ace high heart combos starting to fold out. So yeah, moral of the story is, even though it's a 4-liner board, after it goes check check on the turn, the board may be quite wet, but these hands do just fine as check. So yeah, you can actually value bet a lot of these two pair. So yep, got to look at a bunch of different spots. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions about any of these hands, and thanks for watching.